Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of Rabbi Avi Havivi's weekly Siddur class.
So we've been looking at Heschel's essay on Da Lifnei Miata Omed, know before whom you are standing. And he took that in three parts, and we did two. Part one was know, and it was about awareness of God and how you got to start out being aware, which I'm gonna reframe it, helps your kavanah, your intention, but then kavanah increases your awareness, so it becomes kind of a cycle. Lifnei mi, he emphasized the me, who, before whom, as opposed to what, right? And this led me to my long personal digression. I apologize about my own challenges with, which I'm actually wrestling with this high holiday season actively, not just high holiday season, but in general lately. It's the atah of it all. That's how I'll summarize it. Okay, so now we're going to go to the third part of his essay, and now I'm going to turn the same text we've done the last couple of weeks for those reading at home. It's nothing new, just out of order. Okay, so now we're up to Da Lifnei Mi Ata Omed, before whom you are standing, the third part. Okay, let me get it. Okay, the act of prayer is more than a process. Sorry, I'm on page 212. The act of prayer is more than a process of the mind and a movement of the lips. It is an act that happens between the human and God, in the presence of God. Reading or studying the text of a prayer is not the same as praying. So just reading it is not the same as praying. What marks the act of prayer is the decision to enter and face the presence of God. To pray means to expose oneself to God, to God's judgment. So before last week, we talked about the atah, you, and now Heschel is adding here, before whom you stand, meaning you are exposing yourself to God. You're opening yourself up to contact with God. If prayer is the expression, I don't know what his quote is from. There's a footnote, but I just didn't follow it. I don't know the sources. If prayer is the expression of the sense of being at home in the universe, then the psalmist who exclaimed, "I am a stranger on earth, hide not your commandments from me," was a person who grievously misunderstood the nature of prayer. Throughout many centuries of Jewish history, the true motivation for prayer was not the sense of being at home in the universe, but the sense of not being at home in the universe. Okay? So prayer is something that takes place in the presence of God, with God, and our human, I guess I'll call it individual starting place, is the sense of not being at home. This may seem a little counterintuitive or challenging, but let's follow it. Now he's talking about Jewish history, it still applies today. We could not but experience anxiety and spiritual homelessness in the sight of so much suffering and evil, meaning, complicated English, in the sight of so much suffering and evil, it is inevitable that we will experience a sense of anxiety and spiritual homelessness because of so much suffering and evil, and the countless examples of failure to live up to the will of God. I'd like to point out, Heschel does not say who. I think he means everyone's. That experience, again, this is gained in intensity by the soul-stirring awareness that God's self, was not at home, where God's will is defined, where God's kingship is, the Shekhinah is in exile, the world is corrupt, the universe itself is not at home. I wrote in the margin here, ouch, okay? And of course, this is like straight out of the Zohar, and certainly the Ari, right? Jewish mysticism. The kalim, the vessels are broken. The sparks of light become covered with crud. The universe is damaged. The spiritual universe, the cosmic, the flow of God in the universe is damaged, right? For Kabbalah, they phrase it as God's presence on earth, the Shekhinah, is in exile. God is in exile. The universe itself is not at home. So Heschel is saying, so how in the world could we possibly feel at home? The prayer who is honest, spiritually honest, he's saying, spiritually truly present, has a sense of being alienated, not at home. Person who davens who's not at home in the universe. The Jewish people has had the experience of being not at home in the universe. And Kabbalistically, which is what he's hinting at, he doesn't say the Kabbalah says this, but we've studied together we know that the Kabbalah says this, that it's because God's, again, the metaphor, God's presence is in exile. I hesitate to phrase it this way because it sounds heretical. Divinity itself is damaged. That's the Kabbalistic theory. Divinity is damaged. There's a part that's not damaged, Keter, the top sphera, ayin, nothingness, that which we, that about God, which is ineffable, which is beyond our realm to understand. So maybe there's some aspect of divinity that is not damaged, but whatever of divinity is available to us in this world is damaged. That's the starting point. So when you stand before God, I think Heschel is saying, you're starting from a place on, I am a stranger on earth, Psalm 119, bottom of the page. Great is the power of prayer. Okay, so if that's your starting point, then prayer is a great thing. Let me try to get it here. For to worship is to expand the presence of God in the world. Again, Zohar 101, right? We are doing any mitzvah is a little step, a little piece of rectifying the damage. Doing a mitzvah is a little piece of rectifying the damage. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like pointillism, in art. It's just a dot, right? They're all just dots, okay? But the dots really do add up to a picture, right? And the mitzvah you do is a micro dot. And prayer, feeling yourself connected to God, is a micro dot. But it actually, this is Kabbalah. To worship is to expand the presence of God in the world. God is transcendent. In Kabbalistic terms, maybe that's an aspect of God, which is Keter. But our worship makes God immanent, meaning present. This is implied in the idea that God is in need of humanity. God's being immanent or present depends upon us. Yitgadal v'yitgadash, may God's great name be magnified. Not just name meaning reputation, but when we say that, we're saying, may God's presence in the world be more. It's expressing a wish and a commitment. I'm not reading now, I'm just talking about it. It's expressing a wish and a commitment. It's our commitment to make God's presence in the world more. May there be more of God in this world. I wrote in the margin, wow. Ouch. Those are my two reactions to what we're reading today. Ouch and wow. The ouch is, I am not at home in the universe, and God is not at home in the universe, and the universe is not at home, at peace, right? This is not, there's some nirvana out there. If only we would see and experience the nirvana, then we'd be in nirvana. Hold on, Michael. Hold on to questions. So it's not, oh, it's there. If only we saw it, it would be there. It's like, no, it's damaged. It's up to us to fix it. Okay. By the way, there's the modern phrasing and of tikkun olam, but tikkun in the Zohar doesn't mean working at the soup kitchen. Tikkun means rectification and fixing. It means there's damage. Okay, the universe is broken, or for the Ari, the vessels broke. Okay, and the light spilled all over the place, and bits of divinity are covered up in schmutz, and it's our job to help clear away the schmutz so that the dribs and drabs of light can be seen and can join each other. So, okay, let's read a little more before Michael's comment or question. What is decisive, and this is the part about the omed, you're standing. What is decisive is not the mystic experience, of our being close to God. Decisive is not our feeling, but our certainty of God being close to us. This is the part which is the tough one for me. Although even God's presence is veiled and beyond the scope of our emotion. Decisive is not our emotion, but our conviction. It's not that I'm feeling that God's close. It's that I am certain that God is there. I am certain that divinity is there and needs my help. If such conviction is lacking, if the presence of God is a myth, then prayer to God is a delusion. If God, this is pretty stark. I should have written a margin here for this next sentence. Stark, harsh, hard. This is really stark. If God is unable to listen to us, then we are insane in talking to God. There's no God, and God can't listen. If I can't affect anything, I'm gonna phrase it differently. If I can't affect anything, then there's no point in doing anything to try to improve the world. If I can't affect anything, then there's no point in doing it. That's what Heschel would say. By the way, this is very relevant. Surrounded with temptations to nihilism. I read the news first thing in the morning. As I say to my wife, I read the news first thing in the morning. I read the news last thing at night, and it's a mistake. Okay? Because there's a temptation to not, by the way, this is what I always advise my patients. I tell them it's a mistake, but physician, heal thyself. I myself read the news first thing in the morning and last thing at night, and I realize, what a mistake. Because it is such a temptation to nihilism. By the way, we're on the cusp. Next Tuesday's Rosh Hashanah. Okay? The antidote to nihilism is Malchuyot, right? The three sections in Musaf, Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofronot, and everyone gets so alienated by this idea of God as sovereign, right? But what it says is, the idea is like, no, all the things that people take as sovereign in our universe, I will not list them right now. You could just read it too. All those things are idols. They're all false idols. Okay. By the way, that's also why we say that bracha in the middle of the Amida. I want to take this to, davening the Amida. Mevarech Hasharim. Hashiva shoftenu kevarishona. Restore, right? Umloch aleinu ata Hashem lo'adcha. Hashem, you alone, please rule over us. Why do we say that? Because we know that human rulers are frail at best, corrupt and malignant at worst. Okay? That's the reality. It's a Hobbesian world out there. Again, I'm old enough to say, and some people are old enough to remember, when I say Hobbesian, I don't mean Calvin and Hobbes. I mean Thomas Hobbes. Okay? It's a rough world out there. And those who can take advantage, do that. And the only true rulership is the rulership of God, whatever that means. I understand that's open to it. And here Heschel is connecting this to what we do and saying, that's the starting point. Our starting point needs to be, I, who am a flawed being, stand before you, who are I don't want to say damaged, fractured being, God, or a perfect being whose presence in the world is fractured. Let's say that, okay? Fractured and therefore obscured. And it's my job to see that and to help put you back together. The way to prayer, now we have to end with a little bit of Heschel, name brand, on brand, as my children would say, on brand Heschel. The way to prayer leads through acts of wonder and radical amazement. We look at the world and we say, wow. That's the third thing. Ouch, wow, stark, and then another wow. Just look at the flower or whatever, a baby. The illusion of total intelligibility, meaning the illusion that we actually will be, the indifference to the mystery that is everywhere, the foolishness of ultimate self-reliance are serious obstacles on the way. It is in moments of our being faced with the mystery of living and dying, of knowing and not knowing. I understand God, but I think I understand the point of life. I think that's what he means. Again, it is in moments of our being faced with the mystery of living and dying, of knowing and not knowing, of love and the inability of love. It is in moments of being faced with that mystery that we pray, that we address ourselves to God, who is beyond. I'm not sure entirely that this paragraph flows from what we read above. This is where sometimes you read Heschel and you say, like, oh, this was like a different move of the symphony. I don't quite get how he started out in this section. Lifnei ata omed. I think Heschel wants to take you back here too, because the stuff that we read before today can leave you feeling uncertain and helpless, right? What am I going to do? So what? So I helped one little drop of light. In Chabad terms, I lit candles once. I did one mitzvah. Yeah, really? That's going to change the trajectory of anything? Okay, and that can lead us to say, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is what. There's a reality out there that can't be fixed. Okay, and he kind of wants to take us, I think, beyond a sense of, I don't know what he wants to do in this paragraph, but to take us back to, I guess I would call it Keter, right? The top sphere, meaning, yeah, there is something beyond the mystery. There is something beyond the fracture. There is something. So when you are standing before God, I'm going to try to pull it together, then we'll pause for question and comment. I'm trying to pull this essay together to one essay. When you're standing before God, there is a certainty. There is something beyond the mystery. That is an aspect of God. That's just to take it back to basics. That's the part that we call, the aspect of God that we call transcendent. Okay. And there's a part of God that is immanent, that is fractured and in need of expansion and healing. And through our davening, says Heschel, I think he would say, through other mitzvot also, we are doing Yit Gadal. We are enlarging the presence and sphere of God in the universe. And this is the immanence, right? The paradox in all religions of God as transcendent and yet immanent. Okay? He says there is something transcendent that really is, that is, in air quotes, out there. It's a metaphor. And yet that which is immanent is tentative, fractured, escapable, and therefore we have to work to not escape it. We have to work to make it present, okay? And that's kind of on us. The Hebrew word for on us, by the way, is aleinu. That's what aleinu means. Aleinu means it's on us. I think that's a good lead into the high holidays. We'll pause for question and comment, but there is something beyond the mystery, and there is something that's available and present that is, again, I hesitate to use the word damaged. I think fractured is a better word, that needs support and expansion, and thus our davening or our mitzvot are actually significant. Again, I want to take you back to Chabad, which is Lubavitch, which is a Hasidic dynasty, and the Hasidim are the heirs of Jewish mysticism, the Zohar and the Ari, who basically say, yeah, every mitzvah is an act of tikkun, or rectification of that which is damaged. It's damaged because, back to the Ari, right? Because the world, our world, the real world, was not able to hold on to the divine light. We couldn't handle it. We broke, okay? And mitzvot are acts of gluing things back together. Okay, I'm going to pause because I turned it into a sermon. Sorry. Okay, Michael first, and then I'm gonna stop sharing.
No, I was not raising my hand. I was just adjusting my glasses.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Question or comment, Terry, please.
So I'm, as I mentioned last week, a little bit fixated on the rainbow prayer right now for reasons that I've discussed with you. Would you help me kind of put this together by walking through when I see a rainbow and I immediately avert my eyes and say this prayer?
I just want to jump in because I did a little research after you asked. The avert my eyes is just a minhag.
I know.
Okay.
I know that.
A custom. By the way, I also want to say we have another nature prayer, which is every month between the 7th and the 14th. You're supposed to, as the moon is getting full, usually on Saturday night, you're supposed to go out and say a prayer called Kiddush Levana, sanctification of the month, has all kinds of mystical meanings because the moon is like Israel, the Jewish people. It has no light of its own. It waxes and wanes. It has vicissitude, okay, as opposed to the sun, which is always the sun. There's a lot in that. But anyway, the practice is you're supposed to look at the moon briefly and then say the bracha, blessing. So not be staring at the moon, not be saying, oh, wow, look at that beautiful moon. I believe the fear is, I believe this is I'll try not to editorialize, a rigid, from, you shouldn't appreciate nature too much because leads to paganism, and you should really be contemplating the one who is beyond nature, not the piece of nature. So you don't immerse yourself, you don't stand there too long looking at the rainbow saying, wow, what an amazing thing, that is so beautiful. So I believe there's a minhag. By the way, also the minhag, the custom, is because the rainbow came after the flood, so it reminds us of God's wrath, and we don't want to dwell on God's wrath too much. But again, I just want to point out that this don't look at it too much is and if, by the way, and a lot of things I just want to point out, if you look up things on the internet, this has to do with the algorithm. The things that come up at the top are from things, Haredi things, Torah true interpretations. Okay, so then there's the illusion of you're not supposed to look at the rainbow. Okay, right. I'm just saying it's a minhag.
It's a minhag, and it was discussed extensively in the Mishnah Gemara, yada yada. But right. What I'd like help with is just using that as an example of a prayer that we say. So I'm saying that based on what we've just studied in Heschel. Right. I'm saying this prayer and I'm engaging with God.
Okay.
And I'm also taking responsibility along with my pleading that God remember his covenant.
Okay.
Can you further
respond? Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay. So here's what I think. I think if you are a regular davener, just like if you listen to the same piece of music over and over again, or play the same piece of music over and over again on an instrument, or look at the same work of art whatever, if you're a regular davener, then I think different things strike you at different times. So here's what strikes me today about what you're saying this. Okay, what strikes me today about what you're saying this, relative to what we just read, is here's this radical amazement that God put this sign, and it reminds me of the story of Noah, and the story of Noah reminds me of God's wrath because the world was corrupt, and God said, okay, I realize that I can't smash all my toys again, okay, just because they're corrupt, because Yetzer Lev Adam Ramin Urav, because people are going to screw up because I gave them free will. And then I might respond to it today, based on what I was reading Heschel, by saying, okay, so now I'm going to do my job. I'm going to try to do my job today to make God not mad by whatever good acts, whatever random acts of kindness I am able to do today. Because this message of the story of Noah is, okay, guys, non-gendered guys. Okay, guys, I left it up to you. That's what the message of the rainbow is. So that's what the message of the flood story is at the end. Sorry, I'm not gonna wreck it again and try to fix it. By the way, in Kabbalistic terms, because I can't fix it myself, saith the Lord. I need you to do that tikkun. Okay? A little bit heretical, right? Humans are necessary to do that. So I don't know. That could be what I take out of the rainbow bracha today. That's just my response today. But, on another day, it might be something else. And on another day, I might be fixated on the natural beauty and say radical amazement. We skipped a paragraph where he said about hamotzi, right? Hamotzi, as we said this for a while, like, wow, stuff grows from the ground and someone figured out how to cut it and grind it, and it got mixed with water and it fell at the edge of the campfire in the morning. They ate it and they said, wow, this tastes really good. I mean, all of these things, just lead us to say the world, the created world, is an amazing place. That's Heschel's, what do you call it? Radical acts of wonder? I can't remember. Something wonder and radical amazement. Could someone remind me the phrase? Something wonder, and because he put the title of his book right there in the essay. Go. Acts of wonder and radical amazement. The world is full of acts of. Okay, sorry, it's my response to Terry. Any other thoughts, questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, on to the high holidays, where, among other things, what are the two themes of the high holidays? Malchut and Tshuva, right? God is sovereign, meaning all the things, all the idols that people count on, that people think is really important. How many likes you got for your post, whatever, how much Bitcoin you have, okay? All those things are illusory and are false idols. I think sometimes people feel the message of Malchut is like, oh, God is, I think it's a mistaken idea. God is a king who is lording it over us. I don't think that's what it's about. It's that Laha'avir memshelet zadon min haaretz. We pray to God that we hope God helps us get rid of all the false rulerships. False means lying, disappointing, not really availing to make the world a better place. Okay? So one theme is Malchut, and the other theme is Tshuva, which is how can I change? How can I make personal course corrections, or how can we as a people, as a community, make course corrections so that we are doing a better job of gathering up and freeing the sparks of light and returning them to the. So, Shana Tova Umtuka, a meaningful high holiday season, and God willing, I'll see you in, I guess it's going to be 5786. I'll see you the Tuesday after Sukkot.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site. or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.